Welcome to today's podcast. I do not know why is that not,
Oh, Terry over here having some issues?
I apparently am. We'll get that fixed. Welcome to today's podcast, guys. How are we doing today? We've got Connor, joined by Connor and Thomas here. We'll be joined by Travis Collins in just a moment's time, guys. We are super excited for today's podcast. How are we doing? How's the week been, Thomas?
It's been pretty good. I got my test results back from COVID. I am clean. I can go back to work. I can go back to making money. Because, good old Americans don't know how to wear a mask and stay 2 meters, 6 feet apart. So I had to go get tested for that, but we're all good and back to making money.
Oh, that's good.
How about you?
Good. You're supposed to work today. You work at Amazon, is that right?
Yeah, so I work at Amazon at one of the fulfillment centers, basically just picking up everything that everybody orders and giving it out. So with me, getting tested for COVID, it's kind of a dangerous thing, because I don't know whose package is going to who, and if I have COVID, I could potentially spread it to someone that, could be really affected by it. So I got to be really careful about that.
Good looking out. What about you, Connor? How's the week been? It's been a minute since we've been able to sit down together. Sounds like you've had a busy week.
I've been busy. I told you guys the other day, had a problem with the washer. That took away a whole day for me, and a whole bunch of other stuff going on. Just kind of a mess. But surviving. So here we are.
That's good. Are you excited for today's podcast?
Oh, absolutely.
Incredibly.
You kidding me? Been looking forward to it all week. What do you mean?
Yeah, awesome. Well, today, guys, of course, our guest today is Travis Collins. I've been privileged to know this man around 30 years. We grew up together back home in Sydney. He's had such a stellar career, and it made sense to reach out to him and hopefully have a great show with him today. It's been a minute since we've spoken. I think it's been a little over 10 years since I last interviewed Travis. That was back in my radio days. But if you are familiar with his body of work, we're going to take a quick look at a video package. Let's take a look.
Travis Collins. Since winning the 2004 Telstra Startmaker Quest in Tamworth, Travis has gone on to win multiple golden guitars, including the 2019 Male Artist of the Year. With guitar in hand, Travis has captivated audiences not only in Australia, but on the international stage as well. Today he is here to chat with us about the recent release of his latest album, Wreck Me. Please make welcome Travis Collins.
That was my coffee on your kiss. And now all I can think about is turning this car around. I hope I get back today. I could be wrong.
Ladies and gentlemen, Travis Collins.
Travis Collins.
Dudes, how are you?
Very, very well, sir. How are you?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. It's a tumultuous year, but I found that there's good and bad sides to the coin. I didn't ask for it to arrive this way, but how many of us have always just said, "Oh, gee, I'd love to just have 8 months or 6 months where I just got to have a rest."
Yeah,
right.
It's been a crazy year, and it's been probably been like one of the worst years in recent history. But it's been particularly hard on performing artists such as yourself.
Oh, yeah.
How's it been trying to navigate that?
Well, it's kind of for the first maybe month, I freaked out about it. I was, didn't know. I was like, mortgages, bills, the whole thing. I got guys that go on the road with me. I'm not sure how to sustain, what position are they in? How responsible am I? And you just freak out about everything. And so I did that for a while. And then, I don't know, just one day woke up and just realized that there was nothing I could do about it. You freak out when there's a chance that you can change something. and you want to be proactive in it. But in this situation, it was just the day that I accepted it and just went, well, you're just on the sideline, dude. You got to sit it out and just, get busy around home, plant trees and paint stuff and just dig in the dirt for a while. And that's what I've been doing, man, just focusing on that. I've been, creative as I can. Writing, we released an album in the midst of it all, which was cool and interesting, and we're seeing a whole different pattern to what we've seen with previous releases. So it's an interesting year, but it's not a dead year.
Yeah, with COVID, there's been, I guess you had some kind of sense of responsibility to your team, your band and things. You were doing Facebook Lives with PayPal links for your community, I guess, people that support you to support them as well. That's pretty selfless. How was all that around supporting the team in terms of what are they doing? What are they doing with their time?
Well, I'm lucky that, the guys that work with me on the road, or, my team all the way through from the upper management down to, the crew on the road, they all dabble in other things. And I think in the music business, you kind of got to, unless you're, touring with Pink or Kenny Chesney or, Ed Sheeran, when you're busy enough and making enough money there. But I guess on my level, I'm really lucky that they all had fingers in other pies and they could do other things. But man, those initial live sessions were just they were again off the back of me thinking, what can I do for the rest of my team? And I knew I have a good, fierce little community of supporters that get around everything I do. And so every Friday night I just go live, and each Friday night would be a tip jar directly to nominated band member or crew member. And it was cool, man. It was just a way of me singing some songs, keeping the voice warm and the hands sharp, and putting some money in their bank and maybe covering their mortgages for a couple of weeks.
Yeah. For as long as I can remember, Travis, you've always had a guitar in hand. I don't think I remember a time where I never saw a guitar in your hand. When was it the time in your life when you first picked up the guitar, though?
I think it was probably like year 4 of primary school. My dad, as you know, my family are just like, I mean, from living a street away from us, that we were the loudest people in the suburb. We had the band speakers and drum kits set up every Friday, Saturday night. You'd hear us all across town. Just a big, rowdy, drunken jam session for my dad and his mates every weekend. And so I was always around music. I was always, walking past the guitar and strumming it, and it probably was about year 4. So I guess maybe 8 or 9 years old, if that's about right. Started picking it up and learning some chords, and one thing led to another, and it started with busking on the street, and busking led to gigs, and then, I mean, this is a very generalized 25 years into a sentence, but by the time I kind of left school and, our mates were getting jobs as apprenticeships or McDonald's or, pick and pack or the Army Reserves, whatever they were doing, I was making enough of a living to be, on the same step, on the same footing. And I thought, well, I fooled them this far. Maybe there's something in this. Like, let's see how far I can take this. And then here I am now, 20 years out of high school and really, really fortunate to have a full-time career in music. So, it's one's foot in front of the other, and you never imagine at the start how far it can go.
Great, yeah. Connor,
that. Oh, sorry. I was just say that's super awesome. Just being, chasing the dreams and like being able to, really, like you said, put one foot in front of the other and just really know what you want and be fortunate enough to get what you want in life, and really make the best of just the situations that you may have had. It's just super awesome to, see, because I'm sure there's going to be people looking at, watching this and seeing, it's not impossible. Like, maybe they, they want to be, they be in the music industry as well. And, they're like, it's definitely possible. It's, you just you gotta strive for it. You got to work for it. It's not going to come easy, but, once you get it and once you have it, it's going to be an amazing feeling, like you said.
Yeah, man. I think it's like, with anything creative where, you're creating some kind of content, like the same as what you guys do. It's not different, not very different to what I do at all. It's, I spend a lot of years trying to find my path and figure out how can I apply A, what I'm passionate about, B, what I love doing, and and how can I apply that to potentially make a living? And for a lot of years, you get caught up on working backwards. You start with where's the money, and you try and work backwards from there, and then after years of that, you figure out that's actually the wrong way to do it, because you got to start from the passion. You got to start from the passion and build your community around that. What is it you love doing? What is it you can offer? What is it that you think you can do possibly better than the people around you? Or it's just what's the thing that maybe gets you up in the morning, and find your tribe. Once I found my tribe, I figured out that money is the last thing you even think about. You just try and write best songs. You try and be the best communicator you can with your tribe, with your community and your fans, and the rest of it happens in the back end almost silently and surprisingly to me anyway. I mean, I certainly wouldn't. I'm not a rich or wealthy person, but I'm grateful. This year's been something that has really woken me up to the fact that put on the sideline for 8, possibly 12 or 16 months, and somehow, I don't know how, but somehow we've been able to cover our bills and stuff like that. So it's really interesting, and that's just by going live and supplying something to my community.
You've come along a long way throughout the career, Trav. But one of your first gigs back at the Ingleburn RSL, mate. Was that the moment you thought this is a great feeling? This is something I want to do for the rest of my life, or did that feeling come after?
No, it sounds cliche, man, because a lot of people in the performing arts will say that there's an intrinsic moment the first time that they were on stage, or the first time they got a certain reaction. And if I'm completely honest, it's kind of based on ego, and I think you have to have a little bit of ego controlled to even be in the entertainment. Like, I mean, look at the very nature of it. We're going out on stage and playing to people, look at me, and I think that's what gets you in when you're young. And at this age, I was 10 years old when I did my first gig, and when you're 10 years old, all you're doing is, Mom, watch me do this. Dad, look at me, watch. And that's what you do when you're 10 years old. So when you walk out on stage in a big club and, 400 or 500 people there, and you're 10 years old and the guitar is like, huge on you, and walk out. And I still remember that spotlight swinging around, hitting me, and the crowd just going, oh my God, it's a kid. And, for the next half an hour, they were just watching me, and I was terrible. There's a video that my mum has of that gig, and God, I was terrible. It was so bad. And yet at the end of it, they all applauded and clapped. Maybe they recognized that I was on the start of a journey or something, but very polite. And, I guess from that moment on, again, I say it's cliche, but I kind of knew that something had bitten me that night, and it was going to be in me. There was a poison or an addiction that happened that night, and that was the very first gig. And for a 10-year-old kid, you're busking on the street, and then someone comes up and offers you a gig, and you're going to get $150, which is, for a 10-year-old kid to sing 8 songs, you're just like, holy
that was huge
God, sign me up, man, sign me up. So it was it was huge, it was massive, but it did sort of bite like that, and I knew straight away what I wanted to do, but how to do it was a whole nother thing that took years of trial and tribulation, and tripping myself over and getting in my own way. But I think the shift for me when I really started to get some stride up was when I really just started putting the music first, and the experience of whoever was listening to it first. And it's interesting to talk about this kind of stuff firsthand like that, because there is this, I apologize if there's a certain arrogance that comes across, because I say now with some kind of certainty in what I do, but for a lot of years there was no certainty. I didn't know what I was doing. Now it's just like, look after the people that are interested in what you do, and the rest will in my personal experience, the rest will happen for whether universe or guardian angel, whatever it is. But I'm thankful that things are going good.
Things just seem to fall into place, right?
Yeah, they do. If you get the core of the intention. I watched this great TED talk once about figuring out your why and why you do something, not what you do it for, not not the security or the financials or not any other measurable incremental thing, but why do you do it? And at the end of the day, I play music because I remember what it feels like, and I still get reminded every now and then. I hear songs and how they shift my thinking and they make me feel something. And then once I started to focus on that, I was just like, okay, now I know why I play music, and it's to make people feel and unite and action and whatever. It's an incredible glue to bring people together.
Yeah.
It's a motivator. It's a message. It's a powerful force, and it's that's why I do it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I it was funny when you said that about going out on stage with the guitar that's so oversized for you, 10 years
man.
old, 8 years old, little kid like that, right? I remember I can't play guitar worth anything, all right, but my dad can, and he tried to get me into it when I was a kid, and he bought me a little Fender Squire to try to get me into it and everything, and I tried for a while, and I just didn't stick with it or anything like that, and I regret that now. I've been trying to be a little more proactive about it because I think it's a great skill. I think it's a lot of fun. So I just I related to that.
I see you got a guitar case behind you there.
Yeah, that's from the practice, the recent practice.
There you go.
Loaning that over from him. But yeah. We mentioned in that video package that we threw up when we were introducing you that you took home 2019 Male Artist of the Year at the Golden Guitars. Other nominees were Graham Connors and John Williamson, right? I mean, those are some of the best out there in Australian music. Forget country music. What was that like? To be up there with those kind of guys and to not just be nominated with those guys, but to win.
Yeah, man, it's surreal because how the Australian Academy of Country Music works is that it's the very pool of artists and industry that are aiming to get nominated that vote. So it's the talent is the voting pool. So more than the trophy itself, more than the fuss on the night. The thing that stays with you and that really hits you in that moment is that the peers and the people that the Graham Connors and John Williamsons and Troy Casadale, these guys, I'd run home from school and put their music on and try and learn the guitar riffs and learn their songs, and suddenly you're up there, in their company, getting an award that in my mind those guys are the best at. And you really think about it afterwards, and you go, okay, well, it's the people in this room that voted for this award, and it's the validation that comes with it that means the most. So no one, I don't think anyone ever sets out making music to win awards. Again, it goes back to what I was saying about the core reason you do it, and the awards aren't one of them. But man, it's so nice when the gatekeepers that have got you into the music and inspired you to play it in the first place suddenly stand there applauding for your efforts and your work. And that's a good part of the music business that I love is looking back over your shoulder and helping the next kid that wants to get up to that level and helping them along. And country music is really good for that. They're excellent at really encouraging, to coin a footy term, the grassroots level of it. The next kid that might be busking on the street, get him on the road, give him a chance to open up for you. Put him in front of a crowd or put her in front of a crowd, and that's something that it's not wasted on me that I'm in an industry that really encourages that. So yeah, man, it's not the reason you play music, but that said, if you broke into my house and tried to steal the trophies off the top of the piano, I'd probably kill you.
That's something I've noticed you've done over the years, Travis. You're just talking about that, getting the next guy that might be behind you up to open your shows for you. Yeah. That's something you've done a number of times. I saw you here in Coffs Harbour a few times. I've seen you in Brisbane a few times, and you always seem to have the next guy up and coming on the road with you. It's such a selfless thing to do, and it's great that you're in a genre of music that supports doing that. I think it's great. I mean, also the just just the feeling it must give you to see the next guy coming through and walking the miles that you've already walked as well. It must be like, wow, this is great. So it must give you a great feeling, yeah.
It does, man, and you know, it's not something that I missed out on. You know, for a lot of years driving around selling CDs out of the back of my car, and that was it. There was no record deal. There was no outlet. There was no in-stores or anything like that. And you literally just hit the road, go and play your gigs and sell your merchandise. And you know, at a certain point, I got on the radar of a couple of artists that were doing well, and they gave me opportunities like that. Adam Brand took me out on the road for 12 months, and I use the expression he lent me his audience, and from there, you know, I things started to grow, and he gave me a bit of a motivational talk. He not intentionally, but he was just chatting to me one night about, you know, things that might be ahead for me. And when you're on the road, and sometimes you just feel like people are just pumping your tires up and, you know, trying to give you flattery. But man, something that Adam said to me one night, it turned out to be 100% true. He said it feels like at the moment that you've sort of been rowing your boat, and you've been rowing and rowing and rowing, and you're going upstream, and it feels like, you know, after 10 years you might not be getting anywhere. He said, but you're right on the verge now of somebody putting an outboard on the back, and suddenly you're going to start to feel this momentum that you don't have to row for anymore. And that momentum is your fans. They're going to be out there championing you. They're going to be sharing your videos and doing all that stuff for you. And you know, I didn't really understand the metaphor at the time. But yeah, 6 months later, we had an album called Hard Light come out, with some pretty deep, hard-hitting personal songs on it. And man, the rest is history. That was when the awards came. That was when, you know, my social numbers went up and streaming numbers went up. And next thing, yeah, I guess that was my outboard moment. And you know, it's I still row pretty hard, but it's nice to have that extra bit of, you know, horsepower at the back.
Yeah, well, Wreck Me is the latest release from yourself, and mate, it is a banger of an album. If you're asking me, with tracks like its namesake, Wreck Me, and Own a Boat and Girl Out of the Country. It's every artist's goal, I guess, to write an album that I call a non-skip album, and that's when you chuck the album on and you don't skip a single song. This is something you've been able to do time after time after time again, dude. It's insane.
Thanks,
how
man.
it's. I mean, it's all down to the hard work that you talk about, you put into the career. What's it been able to do that time? Like, what's it been like to be able to do that time and time again? Especially winning awards for these albums as well.
Yeah, I mean, I try not to let anything we've done previously get in the creative way of the next thing, if that makes sense. How do I explain that better? So when we had success with Hard Light, I was really, really adamant with everybody that was involved in the next project that we weren't trying to create that album again. We're not going to let the success of what we did back us into a corner and feel like we had to do that exact thing again. And in fact, with this last album, Wreck Me, it was like, it wasn't even an album. It didn't start as an album. It was just recording songs one by one off the back of different songwriting trips. You know, I'd go to Nashville and write. And at the end of that trip, not even aware that there was going to be an album but at a certain date or any of that kind of planning, just be like, oh, we just finished a 3-week writing trip and I've got these 2 really good songs that I'm super hyped about. I want to get into the studio ASAP and record them. Just to have them there, you know, whether I use them or whether another artist takes them, just for whatever, just go and record them. And that's kind of how Wreck Me, the album, happened, is maybe 5 or 6 different songwriting trips, just being so pumped up about a song and recording it on the spot. You know, some of them were in Nashville, some of them were in Sydney, a couple of them were in the Hunter Valley. Some of the loops and the beats were made here in this room. And we had the 9 songs in the can before anyone even used the word album, and it was something that came from the label. They said, oh well, we've got a pretty interesting mix of songs here that would make an interesting album. And when I listen back to them, it's really interesting to me when you say, you know, non-skip, and I thanks for that. That's really flattering. But I guess part of that with this particular record is at no time were we thinking of a body of work. We were thinking about one song, and just biting them off as we had them. It's when we put them all together as 9 songs and went, man, they've got such a wide footprint. Like you listen to Own a Boat, which is kind of, you know, modern trad country, if that's even a thing. You know, it sounds country, but then you go for something like Wreck Me, which it's got a little more pop infuse in it. Then there's Girl Out of the Country, which is, you know, I think we put about 6 tracks of a gold top Les Paul detuned through a Marshall stack on that, and it's just absolute, you know, rocking out mid-tempo sort of, you know, heavier stuff for country anyway. And you listen to that, and they've all got their own place on that album, and almost none of them sound anything like each other. The greatest compliment I received was from a mixing engineer. We were recording, and we were in the studio doing the mixing, and he put them all up side by side on the Pro Tools rig, and he muted my vocal on each track, and he just sort of A, B, and C each track, and we just listened to the stylistic difference and energy and intent on every song. And he turned to me and he said, he goes, if it wasn't for your vocal, these could all be 9 different artists. And I thought, wow, like I was driving home that night and I was thinking about that statement. And I was like, I never really stood a chance with the influences that I grew up on. They were so wide and huge. I never really stood a chance of any of my albums sounding like one straight line, you know, like I grew up on Aerosmith, I grew up on Farnham, I grew up on Vince Gill and Garth Brooks and Rod Stewart and all kinds of this interesting cocktail of sounds. And so my albums, they never stand a chance of going, you know, one direction.
I remember coming to one of your brother's birthday parties when we were kids, and your dad had Billy Ray Cyrus' "Achy Breaky Heart" cranked on the stereo, and I just remember looking back on those days and going, even back then you had a voice on you singing out in the backyard and whatnot. Is vocal training something that still happens these days, or is it something that did it happen at all in the career? Or is it just the natural talent that no vocal training at all?
I'm not sure if it. No, I've had no vocal training. Sometimes even today I still I would like to get some singing lessons just to sort of understand it a little more. Like I open my mouth and what comes out comes out, and I don't say that for to be cocky or anything. There are a lot better voices than mine, thousands and thousands and thousands. But I feel like, mine's the result of just a bunch of different influences that I grew up on. And 1 minute it sounds like a hillbilly on a farm in Kansas. And the next thing you know, there's that Steve Tyler influence that comes out from all the Aerosmith records. And I don't try and control it. I just sort of let music, when we're on stage especially, there's an energy about moving air and things just getting to that bubbling point where I let the atmosphere tell me how to sing. I never go on stage and go, oh, this is how I'm going to sing it, and that's the tones I'm going to sing with, and maybe I should sometimes. I don't know. I don't ask those questions. I just let the creative spirit take over, and if there's energy, I tend to end up belting it a little harder and a bit raspier, and different influences come out at different times. But sometimes I probably question whether I should have a little bit more of an understanding or a training as such about the technique that I sing with. I do know as I get older, 4 nights on the road and my voice is like really tired. Whereas, back when I was 18 and 19 going through the clubs out in, Western Sydney, we do 4-hour sets, in those clubs and pubs, and they were loud and full of smoke. And, I could do those night after night, no worries. But I guess that's, the young man's thing. But, now in my mid-30s, it's like 4 good nights on the road, belting my voice out for 90 minutes at a time. I know it by Monday.
That's very interesting. That paired with what you were saying about your album having so much different style to it in every song, and that every song could have been a different artist. So I got a question that probably gets asked to you, or you've been asked it before. But your songwriting process.
Yep.
Right? Do you just jam? Do you hear something that like inspires you, that makes you want to? You just start putting it out. You think of the chords. You're going, yeah, that sounds nice, right? And that kind of molds into, you kind of get a feel for what kind of song you want that to be.
Yeah.
Like the style of song. You have love songs and everything, right? And like in all of music, there's all different types of songs. But do you sort of just feel that off the music, or is it a little bit of both, where you kind of think of there's an idea you want to run with and put some music to it, or how does that work out for you?
Well, it's a really good question, man, and it's a question I still ask, because I don't think there's any rule or any formula for me personally. I can't speak on behalf of everyone. I know some people start with a lyric and sort of make the chords and everything change around it. But for me, it's like whatever comes first and whatever comes with the most confidence is where we're going to start. Like, you know, if I'm in a writing situation, I've got a guitar riff but nothing else, I'll start there, because at least you never know what the first brick is going to be, but there's always a first brick. And sometimes it's just a little phrase of words. It could be, you know, like "Girl Out of the Country." I'll go back to that song. There's an old saying, you know, you can take the girl out of the country, but you can't take the country out of the girl. I had a friend of mine go through a pretty tough and sudden breakup, and they were, you know, sweethearts since school, and grew up in a small country town. And you know, he hates it now, because everywhere he goes, there are all these memories on every corner, and all the things they did for, you know, 18 years of their lives. So that particular day, the brick that I had was, you can take the girl out of the country, but you can't take her out of the country boy. And so we started there as that little flip. And then next thing you know, I was just like, well, where does this go? What does it sound like energy wise? And I thought, well, it's a guy that's pissed off because he's lost his hometown to her, and she's left, but it's not his hometown anymore, because it's just littered with memories that, you know, are not ones that he wants to see anymore. So that's probably where I'd go after a lyrical, you know, hook. I'll look for, you know, what's the attitude? Am I sad in this song, or am I pissed off in this song? Am I, you know, kind of more in the middle of the road? And once I figure out those two things, I just go fishing for it, man. Just strum along and blurt out. Thank God nobody sees the lines that don't make the song, because there's some real shit in there.
Well, going back to 2004, when you won the Telstra Star Maker Quest in Tamworth, it catapulted the career. Did you think you'd still be doing this in 2020, back in 2004?
Yeah, no doubt about it. You know, it's funny. The Star Maker Award was something that it's a tough one to talk about, and I hope I never put people offside, because first and foremost, I'll preface it by saying it was an unbelievable experience, and it was something that introduced me to an industry. Instead of just circling around the fringes of an industry, it put me right in the middle of it, and I met the movers and shakers that were actually doing things and promoting and touring. And but I will say, I wish I did that like 7 or 8 years later. You know, I was 19 years old, straight out of southwestern Sydney. You know, I'd only lived out of mum and dad's house for 2 years at that point, and I get this prize and a record deal, and suddenly it's like, all right, kid, all eyes are on you. Who are you, and what have you got to say? And you just don't know when you're 18 or 19. You don't know who you are and what you're about. You're figuring it out, and you know, more power to the people that do make those hit records at that age. But in country music, man, the story's about life experience. The whole genre is about life. And at 18 and 19, I just not necessarily hadn't lived enough of it, but I didn't know how to articulate it. I didn't know how to put it into a song. And so, you know, I kind of made a couple of records that, again, I say with full grateful, they were I wouldn't be here without those learning curves. So there are a couple of kinks in the road that you have to experience to appreciate where I am now, if that makes sense. But given my time again, I probably would have waited until I, established who I was as an artist, what my message was, how to write a song, how to identify what made me different and project that. But I didn't know how to do that back then. So, I listened to my first 2 records now, and as much as they were an imperative part, no, I will not, I have to acknowledge that. But yeah, man, I'd say to any artist out there, especially coming into a genre like country, you just take your time, man. It's a slow burn. It's a slow burn.
Yeah,
For
definitely.
sure.
Yeah. So, when you're coming through, you're meeting the big names. You're meeting Adam Brand. I'm sure that was somebody you looked up to coming through. You mentioned him earlier on. Adam Harvey, John Williamson. If there was one concert you could look back on and go, man, I wanna play that show one more time. That show was amazing. It was the best.
Oh, yeah.
It was the best show I've played in my life. What one would that be?
Yeah.
I did see an interview very recently where you talked about when a stuff up happens on stage and there's a little signal you send to your bandmates going, oh, that's my bad. Oh, I just stepped in something. Yeah, tell us about that.
Okay, so I'm kind of lifting the lid on a bit of a band thing here.
All right.
So now and then we'll be playing and someone will miss something. And when you're in your zone, a lot of the time you don't quite hear what went wrong. You just know that something was off and it was like somebody didn't hit that right or whatever. And we look around on stage and you sort of fess up. Whoever's looking at the bottom of their shoe, it's just like, it's like someone stood in shit, Yeah, because you got your hands on your instrument and you got your vocal into a microphone, so you can't really do anything. The only part of you can use to physically express a signal is your feet. So now and then if something goes shit on stage, you look around the stage and someone, usually me, will be looking at the bottom of their shoe. So yeah, if anyone's ever at one of my shows or sees footage, man, I'll have to find some footage. There'll have to be somewhere. But yeah, that's the signal for that. But to your question about probably the greatest show that we've done, and it wasn't the greatest show in the sense that I felt like it was the best performance that we put on ever. But when 2 albums ago, it was an album called Brave and the Broken, and we were launching it with a weekend of 4 launches, one in the Hunter Valley, one in Sydney, one in Canberra, and one in Wollongong. Saturday night in Canberra, the album had been out for not even 48 hours. And we had gone absolutely ballistic on the first 2 nights of that run. So my voice, and we've been doing all the media and TV and stuff like that as well during the day and concerts at night. So come Saturday night, at sound check, I'm not singing at sound check because my voice is like really on the ropes. And I say to the boys, we have a shot of whiskey and go on stage. And I'm like, I'm going to need all the help you can give me tonight because my voice is really struggling and we've still got another show tomorrow. And we get out there and we get to a song called High Horse, which is the first moment of the show where I encourage the crowd to sing it. And I'm thinking this is just going to fall on its face because this song is only not even 2 days old yet. They only heard it yesterday for the first time. And it was a moment in the show where if I was going to lose my voice anywhere, it would be in that song because it's got the big notes. And I get to the first chorus and the crowd just take it. And I just I get goosebumps even talking about it. It wasn't the biggest show. It was 400 people. It wasn't it wasn't super publicized or telecast or anything like that. But it was like, here is the universe, making 400 people sing a song that they only heard yesterday on Spotify or Apple Music for the first time. And I just stepped back from the microphone. I was like, I don't have to sing it. I don't have to sing the chorus. I'm gonna make it. I was like Homer Simpson going over the gorge on the skateboard, going, I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna make it. And they sing this song, and the whole band, we just go back on our haunches, and we're just like, this is unbelievable. For the first time first time in my career, like hearing them just take ownership of songs, not only so aggressively but so quickly. It was like, on Friday morning we put that song out. On Saturday night, it didn't belong to us anymore. It was not our song anymore. We were just the facilitators of playing the chords, and they sang it, and they were like that with probably 5 or 6 brand new songs that night. And I remember we finished the gig, and I called up my management and my agent. I just said, every tour we do from now on, you make sure Canberra is on the list. So it was phenomenal, man. I'd go back there in a heartbeat, and I'm going back there in December actually, so I can't wait. That'll be the first trip back.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
We spoke before about you bringing the new up and comers through on tour with you, but you've done other things just to maybe even inspire people to pick up an instrument. Last year, at the end of one of your shows, it might have been at the end of the show or at the end of the song, you could probably tell me here, you gave out a guitar to a young boy in the audience. That doing something like that could, obviously you realize it can instill a sense of take up a music career, pick up an instrument, maybe not a music career, but pick up an instrument, and it can change your life.
Totally, man. And you know what? I'll try not to get too deep on this, but you and I grew up a street away from each other, and where we grow up, in an area that was socioeconomically disadvantaged. There's a lot of unemployment around the place, and when you grow up in a place like that, your parents and the tribe you grew up around really are your role models. And depending on which household, and you and I were lucky to get steered in good direction. But a lot of our friends that we went to school with might not have had that same opportunity to pick something up that they were passionate about, and you either find drugs or jail or whatever. And I say this with absolute seriousness, that picking up a guitar changed my fucking life. And it might have just been a little guitar, and I brought it home from Guy's public school. It was one of those get guitar lessons and pay the guitar off. It was a 3/4 length Skylark brand mail order guitar, $50 thing.
Came in a cardboard box. I remember those triangle cardboard boxes. I remember them.
Totally did. And so you get the guitar lessons at school, and you pay $5 a week off it. And now these days we laugh at that, and it sounds like $50. Why would you even have to pay it off? But when you grow up like I did with 6 kids in a housing commission, mum and dad both working, and we never missed a school camp. So I don't want to play the card that we missed out on anything, but asking your parents to find an extra $5 for something for just one of the kids, it's tough. And I remember we made the first 3 payments on the guitar, and it reached a point where I think Dad got laid off a job, and whatever it was, the guitar had to go back. We couldn't afford it. I mean, Dad had his guitar, but it was giant, right? But I would always, as you say, I'd be sitting around at the staircase at school playing the guitar at lunch break and all that, just figuring it out. And our principal, Phil Costa, I found out, I didn't know this until well after my high school graduation, years and years later, but I remember one day learning that I was able to take the guitar home from primary school, and someone said, no, it's all been sorted. Mum and Dad didn't know what had happened. I just figure that, someone had made an error, and they didn't realize that we still owed them $35 for the guitar. And what had happened was the school principal had paid the balance on the guitar. And that's the guitar that I would take busking. That's the guitar that I did my first gig with. And it was the guitar that, put that desire and that burn in to me for playing it and learning music. So get back to it. I totally credit my life to even just coming across a guitar in the first place. I know it sounds very simplified, but I do. My exposure to that instrument happened for a reason, and the life that I have, and most of the friends that I have in my life, are a result of the environments that instrument put me in. So not just that one time, almost every time we're on tour, or probably 9 out of 10 festivals we'll play. I'll always make sure that there's an instrument, a couple of $100 instrument guitar that I will land. Say we'll land in Townsville or whatever. And before we go to sound check, I'll always go to the local music shop and I'll buy just to get acoustic guitar or an electric guitar. And that night at the end of the show, I'll just look for the kid that's up on his dad's shoulders or whoever it might be. There'll be some young person who is just into it. And, a few songs from the end of the night, I sign the guitar and give it to him. And, from the surface, it just looks like you're trying to just get the cheap vote of being a good guy. But there's more to it than that for me. It's that maybe one day I'll be out in the crowd paying $25 to watch them play a show on that guitar. And I know it's weird, but that shit appeals to me. It really appeals to me. And, if I'm fortunate enough to play festivals where, I'm in a position where I can fly my band in and, make reasonable money and a couple of $100 on a guitar to try and maybe give a kid the opportunity that I had, man, well, it just makes sense to me to do it.
Fantastic.
That is an awesome mindset. And I can't say, I just can't express how much like that means to not only like me, but I'm sure just other people, just how inspiring you are just as a person, just in general, how much you've been inspired and how much you want to pass that inspiration on to the younger generation that wants to move on and wants to be able to do what you do, because they're there because they admire you. They're there because you're their inspiration. And just that little spark could be, exactly what changes their life. And like you said,
thanks, man.
When you picked up your guitar and the principal paid that off for you,
yeah.
That was a huge life-changing thing that you got that guitar. So passing that on is just, it's awesome.
I wonder if he knew, when he went into the accounts section of the school and paid the $35. I wonder if he knew, like maybe he suspected that, the kid's enjoying the toy, he should have it for a little longer. But, when I got in touch with him years and years later as an adult, he was a local member in government at that point. He'd graduated through from school and got into, politics. And I reached out to him and I said, I found out what had happened. And he'd been following my career and everything. And I just like, what a humble man, to know that he did that and to see the fruits of the tree that he'd planted. But never once to reach out and just go, hey man, I paid for that guitar. Like he just let it out in the universe. That was something that he knew he did, and that was it. And I think about it every time, when I'm walking around a music store or whatever. Just buy a cheap guitar. Just get a guitar and put it in front of someone, because it happened to me like that. And all I'm trying to do there is manufacture, what he did for me, and it was such a cool move. So I just thought, well, shit, if it's as easy as just giving away a guitar now and then to someone that looks like they could do something with it, then that's that. I'll continue to do that, because it's just cool. It's just cool to do it.
He's
sure.
He's a great man. I still talk about that man to this day when I reflect on my years at Guy's public school. I still talk about that. He was probably one of the best principals I had in my entire schooling career. Probably a principal that cared the most about his pupils across my school.
Which it shows. Yeah. It definitely shows that he was willing to do that for you, and how much of an impact just that ripple effect, and just passing on that ripple effect to other people.
You got
sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, you go.
I was just going to say, you got to think that if he did that for you, how many others did he, however many small other gestures, that he really cared.
And how many gestures have changed the direction of somebody's life, and they don't even know that it was him. That's kind of the point. Is you always have, every one of us have an ability to be a silent persuader, or maybe not a persuader, but influencer in somebody's life. And I was baffled the day I found out about that. It was just talking to one of the ladies that used to work in the front office of the school. And it was years. I was an adult at this point, and I just said, the old guitar that I got. And it was like, oh yeah, Philip Costa paid for that. And I remember when he came in, I thought it was a nice thing. And I was like, well, shit, I never knew that. And so, it kind of it's a kind of cool thing. And you know, there's lots of different ways you can you reach out and help somebody along. And you know, it's everyone should do it. One of the greatest versions I ever heard was a songwriter in Nashville who's done very well for himself financially, written some huge #1 songs. He'll go to the Walmart. For everyone in Australia, it's, you know, it's like Target or Kmart. But he'll go to the Walmart before Christmas, and he'll pay out unfinished layaway, or as Australia would say, laybys. You know, he'll go in and ask for the layaways or the laybys that have got like kids' toys. You know, he's not interested in the ones that have plasma TVs and hi-fi stereos and anything like that. He's like, where are the ones that are $150 total price that have got, you know, 3 Barbie dolls and some Tonka trucks, you know, and the mother or father is coming in and paying $10 at a time. And he goes in there at the start of Christmas and he just pays them off. So next time that person comes in to pay $10 on it, and they go, oh, it's actually, you know, a good Samaritan has paid for your thing. And man, I just, yeah, we're getting pretty deep into it here, boys, but that's the kind of shit that I just, you know, I'm thankful for a life, you know, from where I've come from, to be in a position now where, you know, I can do those kind of things now, and I will, and I do, and you know, I love it because for no other reason than I know what it's like to be on the other end of it. So, you know, if you can, you give back.
Yeah, and it's being in those situations when you're younger and seeing how fortunate, you know, you are to be where you are now, that really inspires you to, you know, try and give back to those people that, you know, are where you were when you were a kid. So we talked a lot about inspirations today, you know, things that that have inspired you, and just your inspiration in general. You want to inspire people. We're gonna keep with inspirations, but change it just a little bit. So there's a lot of artists that have been, you know, inspired by other artists writing music, like you said yourself, Garth Brooks, Aerosmith, etc. Just all these amazing artists that you've listened to and you just use as your inspiration. What are some unlikely artists that you have used as inspiration to write a song? Someone that maybe, you know, you wouldn't think about as an inspiration for, you know, as a country artist as yourself.
Well, man, a few albums ago, I think it was 2016, the album was Hard Light, and overcoming things and, you know, highlighting things that while you're experiencing them, you might have thought you were having, you know, you were getting the poor end of the deal, you know, a rough time and all that sort of stuff. But you get on it and some time past it, and you realize that everything was just testing you and building you into a character that you are, strong and resilient. And at the time we had 13 tracks on the record, and it was on the last recording, the band recording session, and I was on my way into the studio, and I don't know why, but I'm just a big believer in what the universe sends to listen to, and I put it on like a commercial pop station just to sort of lighten the mood. We were going there for like 4 coffees, and you know, I put on some pop radio, and one of the breakfast DJs at the time, one of the big songs was Katy Perry Firework. And I just remember hearing what the lyrics were, and I thought, man, that's a pretty incredible set of lyrics. I got to the studio and got on YouTube to see if there were any other, you know, versions of it, and I found this acoustic version. And that day, totally unplanned, we added an extra song to the album, and you know, within the space of 90 minutes, hearing like the biggest pop queen in the world, we decided to put that song on an Australian country album, and did more of like a guitar-driven, you know, rock version of it. And that was an interesting moment, just to because lyrically it fit that album and the concept of that record perfectly. Yeah, so I mean, that was one that I never would have. If you'd asked me the day before, would I record a Katy Perry song, I'd have said not a chance. But you know, 24 hours later, there we are mixing it in the studio because just open to the universe. It came through the radio, and I thought, let's record it, let's do it. And then, you know, a few hours later, we had it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You know, just listening to your surroundings and just listening to everybody around you, and just knowing that, knowing a sign when you see it and choosing not to ignore it and choosing to really build yourself upon it. That's something a lot of people, you know, can really benefit from. A lot of people that, you know, get the signs, they just ignore their gut feeling. and
Yeah.
then they go on in life regretting and always wondering what could be. It's just that's awesome that you're able to trust your instincts, trust the universe, and trust your gut.
Yeah. Well, I kind of. Yeah. Sorry. You go.
Sorry. No, go ahead. You're gonna elaborate. Go ahead. I want to hear more.
I think just sort of being open to what moves you and what direction you should go, just on the flip of a coin, because I mean I know what it is to also plan meticulously and put all your chip stacks in order and everything like that, and they still turn shit anyway. So why not just be a little more rough and tumble with it and just see what happens? Like I think there's a kind of magic in just seeing what happens, and that's where I like to live. It's where I like to be creative. It's just let's just go with it and just see what gets delivered. And I think that's important.
For sure. And to kind of build off of that last question, just inspirations and everything, people that have inspired you, you've worked with, I'm sure, hundreds, if not thousands of different, artists, venue managers, the roadies that help you set up and tear down. What I want to know is who's the most memorable person, whether it's something they said, just their mannerisms, just who is the most memorable for you? Who will stick with you for the rest of your life?
Whew. Oh man, I don't know. I've been lucky enough to work with some huge red hot artists that were at arenas, and last year I went on the road with Tim McGraw, which was phenomenal. But I think where I learnt the biggest lessons, and I know that he won't mind me saying this, but I think I learned the most from my father, and it was because he showed me a lot about what passion in music is, but he also showed me what it was like to let your lifestyle be the biggest hurdle in front of you. Like my dad would go to do gigs and his voice would blow people away, but it was then hang around till 3 a.m. and just get wildly drunk in the place, and so he's always lovable, and people knew him as as Good Time TC. But I just remember watching him, and I mean this as the greatest compliment I can give anyone. Sometimes it's the biggest lessons you can get are the ones when people teach you not how to not do it. And my dad did that, and his passion in his music. I mean, I still hear recordings of him to this day, and I'm just like, man, he could have been anything. Could have been the biggest country star. But just certain decisions, and the way he was a little short-sighted in that way. It was all about the music, but once the gig stopped, he never really thought about his brand and who he was and he represented. It was just once the gig finished, what he did finished there. And I kind of watched that and how it sort of it hurt him getting any further. And that's what sort of taught me a little bit more professionalism about it. Is where you rock in with your crew, you do a great job, you make sure everyone's happy, and you get out. If you want to go and have a party, you go back to the motel or the hotel or whatever. Just one example. My dad taught me a lot about professionalism by showing me the wrong way to do it. And again, I want to be clear that I say that with the utmost love and respect, because he knows more about music. I mean, he's forgotten more about music than I'll ever learn.
Sort of on that note, another musical question, surprise, surprise. But if you could record a song with anyone, who you want to work with? Anyone.
I mean, one of my big heroes is Vince Gill, a guy called Vince Gill. He's probably, in country music, he's the most awarded Grammy recipient. He's just classy. He's an acquired taste. He's really smooth. Hell of a guitar player. Hell of a songwriter. He's one of these bastards that can do anything, and you just you're impressed all the way up to the point that you're disgusted. He's that good, and every time he brings a new record out or something like that, I'm like, I'm off to the music room, going to listen to Vince until I'm disgusted, and that's kind of what happens. He says, I just sit there, for the first 20 minutes, I'm like, I'm going to practice more guitar. I'm going to practice singing. I'm going to write better songs. And by the end of the album, I'm just like, I'm going to burn everything. I'm just going to put it all on eBay. I'm done. But I think the creative in me would want to collaborate with him somehow.
Awesome.
Okay, very interesting. Yeah.
Well, we do have other segments planned for you today on the podcast, Trav. It's not all just about us bombarding you with 1,000 questions. We do have some fun questions for you too. We have rapid fire round, Trav. Now, the way this works is we're gonna fire some questions at you, and you're gonna answer with the first thing that pops in your head. I think
Shit!
it's either gonna land you a lot of love or a lot of hate, because there's some really dicey questions amongst those. I think Thomas has got a bunch of questions for you there, so I'll let Thomas take over.
Was it me or was it Connor that decided he wanted to do the...
my bad, Connor.
We were rolling with the punches, show business, you know. So
I know Connor. He was
Travis.
just super excited about this. He was super excited. I didn't want to take it away from him. You know, he really likes these questions.
My bad.
I can see Connor's been sitting there for like the last half an hour going, you just wait.
Oh, you know,
He's plotting.
Yeah. Listen, Travis, what's the strangest thing you've ever eaten?
Snail. What do they call it? Escargot? I'm not sure.
All right.
One time on a holiday in
escargot,
France.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay.
Escargot, yeah. Terrible.
Favorite superhero?
Iron Man.
Oh, okay. Least favorite beverage?
Just overdone craft beer.
What's your favorite song?
Desperado by Eagles.
How do you like your steak cooked?
Depends on the cut of the steak. I do like my steak, but generally it's medium or less. Anything beyond medium and you've ruined it.
Yes.
See, that was one of those questions.
Good man.
That was one of those questions we alluded to. You got to be real careful. All right.
Yeah.
It's a lot of love, a lot of hate, you know. What was the last
that was
movie?
a trick, though.
What was the last movie that made you cry?
Oh, God. What was the name of it? Man, it was only 3 weeks ago. It was on Netflix. I can't remember it. Yeah, but I'm going to have to get back to you on that one.
All right.
But just as a general, I can't watch any of the dog movies like the Marley and Me. Can't watch them.
Gross.
Mine in that answer was A Dog's Purpose.
Dogs, I can't watch that. I've seen the trailer and I was like, no, not for me.
So in that same vein, cats or dogs?
Oh, dogs for sure.
Yes.
Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Definitely not.
Oh, Trav. What have you done?
Definitely not. No, not on the pizza, not on the burger.
All right. As of this podcast, the score is 2-2. All right. It's us on the bottom versus those guys up top.
That's why we're up here, because we're right.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
Who was your first celebrity crush?
First celebrity crush. Man. Okay, this is a weird one. You want something that's going to divide the crowd. Here it is. So, first celebrity I ever met, I was 18 and I was doing an event. And what was the band that Sophie Monk was in? Was it Bardot?
Bardot. Yeah.
All right. So I'm not talking about Sophie Monk now, who we've all just learned to stomach. But I'm talking Sophie Monk, 20 years old, in Bardot. We were like across the hall from each other, our dressing rooms, and I was 18 or something. And I just remember thinking, that's the sexiest woman I've ever seen. And I had a mad crush on her for like 12 months, just different events that we would end up on the same gig.
For those of you that don't know who Sophie Monk is, she was in an all-girl band that after winning like a show here in Australia called Pop Stars. But before that, she used to play Marilyn Monroe at Warner Brothers Movie World on the Gold Coast, and that's kind of how it got that got her singing career kind of started with this band Bardot. But she is back then she was the stunner.
Oh yeah.
Right now, these days,
Oh, she's not a dog now, but
Oh,
she's
no.
she's not the she's not.
She's not the 20-year-old
yeah.
Sophie Monk we all fell in love with back then.
You
I
wanted
probably
to put
had
us in your
bigger
shoes.
celebrity crushes, but that was the first celebrity I met who I just went, oh damn boy.
And to wrap up my little segment here, would you rather climb a mountain or jump from a plane?
I've jumped from a plane, and I have not climbed a mountain of any note. So I'll take mountain.
I got a couple of friends that climbed Mount Druitt. Yeah.
Mount Annan.
That's a shithole town in here in Australia. It's yeah. Anyway,
I've heard a little bit.
Okay,
about
I
it.
mean, very, very, very interesting across the board on those answers. You guys,
Good
follow-up
question.
questions?
you're wrong on the
Did you happen
pizza,
to remember? Yeah, wrong on the pizza for sure. Did you happen?
I'm
to
sorry
remember the title of
I'm
the
sorry to disgust you guys.
Did you happen to remember the title of the movie though that made you cry?
No.
No.
You know what? We'll finish the interview and it'll come straight to me because I'm that kind of idiot.
Oh, as soon as we're done, as soon as everything's wrapped up, you're like, oh, got it.
Totally.
All right.
Totally.
He doesn't remember the name of it, but it was recent. All right,
Yeah.
It means he's in touch with his feelings. You know.
Yeah, it was recent.
He's out
It was recent. Do you know one that surprised me that made me get teary though? And it's stupid because it's only a CGI effect anyway. Is like the last Jurassic Park movie, the Lost World, I think maybe it was.
Yeah.
So there's a scene where the dinosaurs are getting on this ship and they're pulling away from Jurassic Park, and this huge brontosaurus comes to the jetty, and it doesn't make it onto the boat, and it gets engulfed in flames,
Yeah.
and it lets out. Man, I know it's just CGI, but at that point, like I'm in the cinema and my wife's like, "You all right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, no, it's it's a rough one." It's a dinosaur.
It was a good movie.
It was a good movie, Ron.
My answer to that question was in the Big Bang Theory when Professor Proton passes away and Leonard comes into Sheldon's room at the end, and he's like asking about how the funeral was, and then he gets halfway through his sentence, and then Sheldon, just like the germaphobe guy that doesn't like to be touched, needs a hug, and I was like, oh my god, oh my god, not even a real thing. And anyway,
Bless Sheldon Cooper.
well, a new segment we've brought to the podcast this week, Travis, is Would You Rather? We're going to pose a bunch of questions to you. Would you rather A or would you rather B? We're going to get to know you a little bit more. I think Thomas is actually going to ask you a bunch of questions about that, so I'll let him take that away.
Yep, I got this. So, would you rather be able to speak to animals or be able to speak and understand every foreign language in the world? Any animal,
Animals.
any language.
Easy.
Animals? All right, for sure. Do you have a reason behind that, or just you like to talk to animals? Or to talk to your pets?
Animals are my favorite people. I like animals more than people, so I'd rather hang out with them, to be honest. I mean, you guys are cool, but hey, if you were like a monkey and a meerkat, I'd probably be more excited.
Oh, I might be able to work that out. All right, next one.
Animals.
Would you rather be stuck on a broken ski lift or stuck in a broken elevator?
Ooh, ski lift's cold.
It is cold.
Elevator's
looking at
claustrophobic.
heights. You're looking at heights or
God.
spaces.
Is this a rapid fire? I'm going to take ski lift because I'd go crazy in the lift, I think.
All right, so ski lift on
Ski
that
lift.
one. All right, so next one. Would you rather have one real get out of jail free card or a key that can open any door you want, other than a jail cell, because that would technically be the get out of jail free card?
I'll take the get out of jail free.
All right.
Because most doors you want to get into, you should be getting into them. But man, imagine if you had a get out of jail free, you could like just push the limits of life a little more, knowing that if you went to jail, hey, I'm out.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? Never mind. Just forget that ever happened. Here you go.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Would you rather know when you were going to die or how you were going to die?
Oh shit. How?
How? All right.
Yeah.
And then-
it wouldn't change the way I lived too much.
That's true, because if you knew how you were going to die, then you would want to try to avoid
Or if
those
I knew
things.
when I was going to die, Man, that'd be terrible.
You'd go crazy.
Whereas if they say, "Oh, you're going to get smashed by a great white shark," that's cool. I'm just going to stay out of the water.
Exactly.
You know?
I mean,
then it's gonna end up being
Sharknado's a movie. Sharknado's a movie. That could happen.
Based on true
I was
events.
gonna say,
Good.
Yes, 100%.
you know, you say, okay, I'm gonna stay out of the water, but then it turned out life threw you a curveball, and it was a shark fell out of a truck or something like that.
Yeah, I know, right?
Right?
That's some Final Destination shit right there.
Yeah. Oh man, that'd be horrible. Just driving down the freeway,
Shark.
and just a shark.
Yeah. You know the logs on Final Destination? Imagine there were sharks.
Yeah, exactly. Oh god, no. Oh,
All right,
and
part
then-
3, they're going to make it.
Oh yeah, right. So I want some royalties for that though. That they're like just all 4 of us right here. We're gonna get some royalties for that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Everybody stay out of the
Sue
water.
their asses.
Just stay right out of the water. I do.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And our last question on the would you rather. Would you rather publish your entire search history going backwards and from now on, or never be able to use a smartphone again?
I'd show the search history.
Search history?
Can't be worse than anybody else's. Can't be, man. He without a suspicious search history cast the first stone.
Yeah.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. Let me go ahead and hey, incognito browser is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
It's just
Let's,
Bardot 1999 is what it is.
That's right. 99 baht. No,
Yeah.
it's funny, man.
Oh,
How could you live without a smartphone now? If we all had no smartphone, you could do it. But if you're the only one,
question.
nah.
yeah. I
No,
mean,
it's
you
a
could
fair
always ask
question
your
because
friends.
it's such a I don't think that sometimes we don't realize how much those phones are really like glued to everything we do every day from the moment we wake up to the moment we go to sleep, right?
Yeah.
And how that's developed over 13 years. That's a whole other conversation, really.
Yeah.
People say, oh, next thing you know, there'll be a smart chip planted in our brain. I'm like, well, they don't need to. We've got it in our hand already for 12 hours a day.
Yeah, right. That's the thing
It's
with
as good
iPhones.
as.
If you guys have iPhones, how it tells you like every week, like, oh, your weekly screen time went up 38% this week. You look at it, it's like, my God, I was looking at my phone for 12 hours a day. Like, I don't even remember doing that.
Disable notification.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, as we move towards the end of the podcast, Trav, we did ask our communities to reach out to us and ask us some questions posed to you that they wanted to know. I have a question here from a member of my community. Her name's Ida. She wants to know, do you have any memorable moments from or stories from when you were in your busking years?
Yeah, man, junkies. They're, God, you'd be just trying to busk, like, and they'll be like wigging out for whatever reason, like not trying to steal your money, but like just come up and a couple of times, like, especially like Liverpool or Campbelltown. God, I just remember a couple of times thinking as like a 13 or 14-year-old kid that, damn, I'm about to throw down with a grown-ass junkie because they're, luckily it never got to that, but like, one tried to grab my guitar off me one time. And luckily, like I never went on my own to busk. Like I always had a friend that was sort of milling around the area or, an older sister or brother nearby. But yeah, man, that was probably the weirdest thing is just you never ever felt 100% safe. I mean, you're a kid there with a case full of money. When I say a case full, it was a lot of money to a kid, but there'd probably be $50 or something in it. But the junkie would come along and be like, "Oh, there's the next hit.
Yeah.
All I got to do is knock a
50
kid over."
Yeah, $50 to a tweaker is like that's gold right there.
I know.
That's pure gold, especially when you're coming up to a kid. That's you're like, no, the easy money.
Taught me everything about calming things down, which was good.
Oh yeah. Verbal judo, as they call it.
Yeah, that's right.
And unless these guys had any further questions, Trav, Connor, Thomas.
I got a couple of general ones that'll be kind of interesting to see. So this first one is from Armored Kevin, and he wants to know, what was your first car?
Man, my first car was, this sounds so entitled, but I won it in a talent quest. There's a big club, almost a casino, and they had like something called Star Search, or I can't remember what it was, but I went in it, and the first prize was like a car. It was a Proton Satria, little hatchback front wheel drive thing. Certainly not what I drive now, but you used to put the McDonald's food trays under the back wheels.
Oh my God.
And sort of front wheel drive, and the back would never have any traction. So we'd go up to like find an abandoned cul-de-sac, and man, it's you don't appreciate a car when it cost you nothing.
For sure.
We flogged it pretty hard, that poor old girl.
And then just one more. This one is from T-How TV, and he wants to know, what habit are you trying to form and or quit? So what good habit are you trying to form, or what bad habit are you trying to quit?
Good habit I'm trying to form is just to be more present and mindfully peaceful. Just comfortable doing nothing. I've got a busy mind and busy hands. I've always got to be, doing something. But just content in my own company. Just sitting there looking at a tree and calming my mind down a little bit, which 2020 has been good and bad for in its different moments. But meditating as such. Yeah.
For sure.
If you've got no more questions, guys, I got one.
Yep, go ahead.
So what is, if you had to pick out of all those guitars, we see lots of guitars behind you, what's your favorite?
It's not on display here at the moment. My favorite one is sort of over there in a case. And a quick story about it is I was in Nashville in 2007, and I was playing this guitar at a guitar makers conference. So they all bring all their guitars, and I was playing this guitar, and it was all made from Australian woods, and I just fell completely in love with this instrument, and I couldn't afford it, not by a long shot. And I was talking to my wife, she's just my girlfriend back then. I said, I'm not coming home. I've met this blonde, and so I sort of just described the guitar as a woman, I was trying to get under her skin. I'm like, I've met this blonde, and I can't keep my hands off her, and I was saying all this stuff and just joking. Of course, my wife was just like, "Oh, good on you, idiot." And then this guitar, I was just playing it at the showcase. It had already had a deposit. Someone else had already bought it, and so unfortunately, I couldn't get it, even if I found a way to buy it. Anyway, fast forward, I come back to Australia with a crushed heart because my favorite guitar I've ever played was not mine. And then at Christmas, it turned up at my house. My wife, as I said at the time, my girlfriend and my best friend had gotten together and conspired that they should get in touch with the guitar maker, find out how serious the sale was, if it only had a deposit on it, and could they, buy it and be a sure sale. And that's exactly what happened. The other guy couldn't come up with the rest of the money or something, and so they bought this guitar, and it's over there. It's if anyone Googles around, you'll see it in you see it in a music video called Small Town. It's got this beautiful satin finish on it with a great big leather horse head on it. It's a phenomenal instrument.
I love that song, by the way, Trav.
Yeah,
Small
thanks.
Town, it's a great one.
Yeah, that's a great story. I'm glad I asked that question. Really.
Sure.
None of these ones.
That's awesome.
Well, the latest album, guys, from Travis Collins is Wreck Me. He's here today. He's going to perform us that song on the acoustic guitar. Travis, thank you so much for your time with us today.
Anytime.
We appreciate having you here, and I'm sure I speak for these guys as well. We'll let you take it away with your latest hit, Wreck Me.
All right, here we go. Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it. You're making me feel like like I got a whiskey buzz. You're taking me where it's getting kind of dangerous. It's hitting me just like an all-night song. One little kiss from you goes on and on and on. You got me going out of my head. You got my mind a mess. This night ain't over yet. You got this moonlight spinning around. The stars are falling down. My feet won't touch the ground. Way that you get me, baby, you wreck me. Girl, I'm high enough that I don't ever want to crash, but you got that kind of love that's giving me a heart attack. That crooked smile is like a smoking gun. Damage is already done. You got me going out of my head. You got my mind a mess. The night ain't over yet. You got this moonlight spinning around. The stars are falling down. My feet won't touch the ground. The way that you get me, baby, you wreck me. You wreck me like a wrecking ball. Go ahead, break down the wall. Girl, I ain't afraid to fall. You got this moonlight spinning around. The stars are falling down. My feet won't touch the ground. You got this moonlight spinning around. The stars are falling down. My feet won't touch the ground. Yeah, you get me, baby, you wreck me. Yeah, you wreck me. Come on, wreck me. There you go.
Travis Collins.
Thank you.
Again, Trav, thank you so much for being on the Eagles in the Outback podcast today. We appreciate all your time today. Yeah, dude.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thomas, you've...
Yes. So I have confirmed with the person that I will bring on next week. So next week, our guest host will be Stacy Blades. So Stacy's been on a few different bands. He's been in LA Guns. He's been in Rat, Rocks Gang, Smack, several other glam rock, hard rock type metal type bands. So he's going to be here next week. Make sure you tune in for that. It's going to be super exciting to have him. I hope it is at least 50% of as much fun as it was with you today, Travis. I had an amazing time. Man. Thank you so much for coming out.
Thanks for having me on, fellas.
Well, guys, that's going to be it for the show today. You can catch us again next Sunday from 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time if you're in the US, or from 1 p.m. Out here in Australia. I'd like to thank Thomas and Connor, also our special guest today, Travis Collins. Travis, like I said, it's been great, and I'm sure we'll maybe get you again, on the next album. Who knows? Before we go, Trav, tell us what you've got going on in your tell us what you've got going on in your world.
After today, I'm going to give Pineapple another chance. On pizza, I'm not really sure. I didn't realize it was that divisive, but I'll give it a go. I'm not promising anything, but yeah, we got to try that. But mate, we're gearing up. We're finally gearing up for next year. It looks like restrictions might hit a point where we can start to at least plan some tour dates and hopefully not have to postpone and reschedule. So, man, the day we stop trying is the day we die. So, yeah, we're in the middle of booking a tour for next year.
Awesome. Well, if you haven't already yet, jump on Spotify and check out more of Travis's work. It's just Travis Collins. an album I feel guys should start with if you want to hear one of my favorite albums of yours is actually your first one, No Boundaries. But I mean, they're all, like I said, a no skip album. Travis, once again, thank you guys. Thank you for being here. We'll see you next week.
Peace out, everyone.